This episode of The Brain Mechanics is being made possible through the support of Medi-Center Pharmacy, Cambridge City's locally owned and operated pharmacy. Medi-Center Pharmacy provides prompt, friendly, professional service and a care for your overall health and well-being. Big enough to meet your needs, small enough to know your name. Medi-Center Pharmacy. The topics discussed and the information provided on this program is for general information. The hosts of this show are not medical professionals and are expressing their personal views and stories related to their individual lives. Their views are not intended to be used or taken as medical information. If you or a family member have suffered a traumatic brain injury, you should seek help from a practicing licensed physician.
We hope to help you. We want you to know that there's some life after the hurt.
Hi, I'm Mahlon Whitaker. Welcome to Brain Mechanics. And it's like we always say, we're not doctors or lawyers or counselors or anything. We're people that have been there and done that on traumatic brain injury. And we want you to know that there's hope and there's people that can help, and you can help yourself, okay? Today's show is with our host, Matt Duffin, and our visiting guest, Jonathan Winchester, and his service dog, Henry. Today we're going to talk from a different perspective. We often talk about traumatic brain injury and allude to PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. And Jonathan's here to talk today about his service to our country overseas. Jonathan, thank you for 18 years. From everyone out there. Matt, over to you.
Hi, everybody. I'll thank John. I've known John for a while, and I gotta thank him. He's a good friend. He's from Cambridge, a little behind me in school, I guess. And I knew him when things were okay with him. He was in the Army, coming home on leave, life was good. I think we ended up working the sidelines at the Western Wayne News in Cambridge City. He was my photographer from our sporting events that we covered. And he kind of liked to be left alone, and I'm kind of a guy that likes to chase people down that has brain problems. So we started talking. And he got some pretty heavy PTSD being a ground warrior, as this is the 4th of July. 3 tours. I believe one was in Afghanistan. I know twice he went to Iran. Iraq. I went to Iran. You went to Iraq. And he got heavier and heavier, and he went back and did his third tour, and it got worse. And we'll get into what help he got into in the military as he was getting ready to be discharged from the Army from some pretty heavy PTSD. But my most important guest from the Puppies Behind Bars is Henry. I met Henry, I think it was 8 years ago, 7 years ago, when he was first born. He ran the sidelines with us. He didn't have that gray beard, but we'll get him up and get him active here pretty soon. And that's what we want to explain. I want to look for help. It's the 4th of July for the veterans out there that don't know where to get help, don't know how to research it on their own. They get, our minds get lost. We have trouble, we struggle doing this kind of work. We need some help.
It's a lot. Let's face it, it's overwhelming.
Especially when you're already overwhelmed.
Well, yeah, and we're asking our veterans to go do things that we certainly would be horrified or absolutely frightened to do without the training that they've received. And then, of course, we expect everybody to come back and, oh, cool, back home again in Indiana, it's not like that. Jonathan, what? I wouldn't ask you to describe any of the horrific things you've been through, but you have received a bit of a traumatic brain injury just as part of the regular course. Infantry, correct?
Infantry.
So
correct.
you're on the ground with those tan boots and stuff, and the uniforms that look like you should be at the beach instead.
It's about 80 pounds. You get the armor, the chest armor, the treasure armor, and all that. So yeah, it's pretty heavy. It does a lot of compression to your spinal cord too.
Yeah.
So
physically
it really wears.
Difficult.
Yeah.
And then on these tours, I mean, you managed to make it to the ground each time. You weren't just waiting somewhere in Kuwait or something like that.
Right. The one that really hit me was the last tour to Afghanistan. I only spent 10 months of the 15 months that I was supposed to be there. Towards the middle part of the tour there, I stopped sleeping. It just stopped. I would go 72 hours without rest, and it's like you're mindful of it. You're like, man, I haven't slept, so you'll try to sleep, and
but it eludes you.
You just can't do it. It's like you're not tired.
And you think you can, and you will go to sleep.
Eventually, you do. Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it.
No. And I quit eating. There was no enjoyment of anything, and no motivation to do that nutrition. So it's like if somebody's not watching you daily and telling you, "Hey, we're going to go eat," and physically takes you to eat,
that bad,
you're not going to. Well, some people will, but I couldn't.
Didn't.
I just didn't do it. And then they got those. Yeah.
And he was a sergeant.
The delicious meals that are regularly
delicious
served.
meals,
Yes, okay.
and I got to tell you, I really love the Air Force. The first Air Force place I went to eat at was on the way over to Afghanistan, and I forget the name of the place, but my gosh, it was like Willy Wonka. That food was amazing. And then you go back to the Army chow, and it's like, awesome. It's still good.
So it pays to have your meals flown in, is what you're saying?
Yeah, the chef. The chef. You gotta have the chef.
Better than well, we used to call them C rations. You guys call them MREs.
MREs, meals ready to eat. Yeah, which aren't bad. I mean,
really.
There are some that you don't like, but you can mix and trade. And I really like the nacho cheese and the salsa. But you gotta get them from separate areas.
Okay.
Put them in and mix them
Make
up
it together. Okay.
Yeah.
Get your group.
Well, obviously you're still being creative in the field, but the thing that happens is you're over there, and as I said, you're asked to do things that we can't imagine.
Well, the military and the Army. I'm going to speak from the Army's point of view because that's what I know. Their training is it's very good. It's very good training for the infantry.
Yeah.
When I was going through my deployment, the 3-month pre-deployment, where they train you somewhere, get you away from your family, put you in an environment that is supposed to mimic what you're going to. So they took us there. I went as a communications guy.
Right.
My primary MOS was 11 Bravo, which is infantry. But I retrained and retooled into communications because I thought, hey, that'll give me something to do when
when you get out.
When I get out, I don't want to be a security guard or that or whatever. I wanted computers,
Sure.
So those 3 months, they didn't really train the commo guys. It was kind of hit and miss. We did 11 Bravo training, which I was comfortable with because that's what I did.
Yeah. Gotta do something, right?
Yeah, and then I've got all these kids. I'm a sergeant, so I'm a section leader, and I've got these kids. I call them kids because they're 10 years younger than me at that time.
Yeah.
And I'm training them, and I'm leading them by example. And every chance I got, I'd show them about hey, here's the radio. Here's how it works. Oh, we got to go to the field again. Okay, yeah. So then we get over. I'm just going to jump right into it.
Okay.
So we get into Afghanistan, and they took our section in half. There was 14 of us, and they took 7 of us and said, okay, you're going to be in the new company, Delta Company, for the 1st of the 158th, which is an infantry.
Okay.
The whole thing's infantry.
Right.
So instead of doing commo, you guys are going to do infantry. What? And then the other 7 went to Mederlam, which is in the Northeast, yeah. Anyway, so I went to PRT Farrar, which is in the southwest, and they had a nickname for that place. It's called Fort Apache.
Yes.
You are 8 to 10 hours drive from any other base, city,
anything.
Americans, So any close support would be there. So already you're isolated, and when we hit the ground, we were confused because I'm supposed to be a commo guy, and I got these kids. They're like, "What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" I really should have paid more attention when I was doing this. And I was like, "Okay." So we're there 2 weeks, and then finally they're like, "Hey, we need somebody to run the TOC, which is the Tactical Operational Center, Communications."
Yay!
And they're like, "Who do we got that has commo experience?" So. Oh, hey, you. Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm a sergeant, but, a TOC commander is an E7, which is a sergeant first class.
Okay.
So it's 2 grades above me and more training that I didn't have. But I had the basics.
You had the basics, you're there, and you're
So,
at Fort Apache,
Most of the
right?
time, that's all they need.
PRT for all, Fort Apache. But yeah, so they threw me in there, and I got 4 Navy guys, and 5 Army guys.
So
And
you
they're
were
all-
safe.
Yeah, we were safe. I love my Navy brothers. I was busy trying to get caught up on all the transition, the handoff from the other unit, which was from Connecticut to us from Arizona. I didn't get that switch over, so I didn't know about any of the equipment, so I'm looking for manuals. We did have internet access, but it was spotty. So I had to learn a lot.
Long story, you walk in cold.
Long story. I walked in cold.
And you're Fort Apache, which actually that name made the news back here.
Yeah.
The saying did.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, back when. Well, maybe it's the news that I watch, but I don't know. It wasn't like the regular news, but on the internet and so on. But as I understand it, that it was not a resort. In the south of Afghanistan, it was basically a place for the not ISIS at the time, but the
Taliban.
Mujahideen and the Taliban to congregate and shoot at you, right?
Correct. There's one major highway that comes, or I call it a highway. I think it was
the dirt road.
It was the dirt road.
Yeah.
It's not the highway you see here, but it came in through Iran, and then past us, probably about 50, I want to say 50 miles from us, and then went and circled Afghanistan through up and around Bagram. It was just like a big circle. So you had a lot of, when people were fleeing Iran, you had that whole convoy of people coming right by our base. And then you got the Taliban that's infiltrated into them.
Right.
So it's like you don't know who's who and what's what.
Yeah, everybody's speaking the same language and looks alike and so on.
Yeah, Pashto, I think ours was Farsi.
Farsi?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have families and groups and people
You have groups
just
of people,
moving across.
just, refugees.
Getting out of the way,
Yeah.
Now, that was your first experience there, and then you did 2 more tours besides that?
No, that's the third one.
The third one, that's the third one?
That's the one we're going to concentrate
Okay,
on.
okay.
'Cause that's the one that I think that really hit it.
Well, and in relation to brain mechanics and TBI and post-traumatic
Yeah,
stress, I
that's
think that
where it
might be. So you're there, you're in cold, you're finally in communications, where you studied to be, but not at the level.
Right.
Then they paid you E7, right?
No.
Oh, man. Okay, well, anyway.
Comes out to about 23 cents an hour.
I thought it was for the money, but anyway. Now, Henry has joined us. He is, he's ready to have a snacklet.
Henry.
All right, get it. Henry, watch. Get it. Good boy. Yeah. Okay, so Henry knows 105 commands. He's a very smart dog. It was given to me by Puppies Behind Bars out of New York.
Can you tell us, Puppies Behind Bars, and I don't know whether we can shoot in on the collar or tag that's on his back there, but is it, what is the meaning of that? Obviously, the service dog is here for a couple of reasons. Can you explain why and where he comes from?
I don't know if you noticed, but I started twitching, and there's something in the human body that gives off a vibe that they're trained to key in on, and what it allows me to do is to ground. So it's like, oh, okay, if I go into a flashback or I go into some where I zone out, he's here to say, hey,
over here.
Yeah. He's
everything's okay, buddy.
Yeah, everything's okay. And, as long as I'm fine, he's fine just sitting there. But if I get agitated, he'll get up and say, hey.
Like he just did.
Like he just did, yeah.
There was some people I went out, I visited.
I wish you could see his eyes. He's looking
We do a
right.
lot of, yeah.
They're looking into each other's eyes, and the puppy is literally showing concern. Okay, I'm here, buddy. He's looking up at it. I can't imitate it at all, but
I'm not.
Lay down.
You're okay, buddy.
Paying attention.
He's telling
Good boy.
Jonathan you're okay. But while you're at it, get some of those treats out. Okay.
Yeah.
I visited a family in
Back to
Colorado, and their teenage daughter had been run over by a truck, obviously, TBI. Anyway, they had a family dog, and it learned, because she had so many seizures a day, like hundreds,
Yeah.
that he learned to identify with it, in case the nurse is falling asleep or something. Well, hell, I was in the backyard one day, like the second or third day I was there, just walking back in. It was Colorado. And the dog started going nuts over me. I'm trying to figure out why. I'm walking and going upstairs in the house. The dog's following me around. And it didn't know me. I mean, just a couple of days. About 10 minutes later, I had a seizure.
Wow.
Just a small, but I had to sit down. And that dog knew that.
Yeah, they've got to be trained to identify what they're feeling. I believe so. With Puppies Behind Bars, they're trained from 8 weeks. They get their first training, and it's day in and day out with inmates in the, I think it's Orange County prison system or Catskill or something. I don't know what it is, but yeah. So every day they're with this dog for 2 years. It's an amazing program. It's really helped me get out of the box. Like Matt mentioned, we did, I got down the sideline to take photos of the football game. I like football, so I was like, I went to school here. I don't want to sit in the crowd.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, if you take photos for the newspaper, you can walk along the edge. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
I got some amazing shots, and I really enjoyed it. And when the crowd got too loud, I'd leave. So it was really a really good transition for me.
His really only rule was if the come running this way, move me out of the way or block them off of me.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd take the photos, he'd write the article. But that's when that's when I first started getting out of the house and actually trying to do something.
You've gotten back, and the photography that you're doing is post being in
it's
Afghanistan.
Right. When I first got home, well, let's start with the WTU, the Wounded Warrior Transition Unit.
Okay, I'm unfamiliar, but so please.
It's a WTU, and so when you come back and you're injured or you get something physically or mentally going on, they'll put you in what the military calls, or the Army calls, a transition unit. So you're with other people that are supposed to be like you. They sent me to Fort Huachuca, Arizona.
I was gonna say they have different forts. And then
Yeah.
the Air Force that goes to plays in Colorado.
Right, and so there's other.
They call it the black hole.
Yeah, you kind of get lost there. So the transition, you're kind of on your own, but you're not. I'm not a big fan of that program. Now, it's probably changed since then because
I know at one
I got
time
isolated.
At one time, they didn't really let families.
No.
You could have 3 or 4 kids and be a young man under 30, and
Yeah.
they just didn't let you be with. They didn't know how people were going to respond, what they were going to say.
Right.
I've talked to the people.
Not trying to say anything about Wounded Warriors necessarily good or bad, but people are really reaching out, trying to help.
Yeah.
I think, and it's the same thing we do here on Brain Mechanics. Is it's a show of opinion, but at the same time we do want to help. And the important thing is, I think, just seeing the Puppies Behind Bar here, Mr. Henry, is that there are things that can be done. You said that you had pretty much isolated yourself on your own once you were back. You just like being back home wasn't like being back home, was it?
No. When I first got back home, you see I'm a stutterer now, but it's like it was really bad. So I didn't want to talk, and I didn't want to be around people. So I started drinking like every day, self-medicating.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Stayed in my room. didn't really get out.
Yeah.
The counselor at that point said, hey, you know, you're being discharged. You need to go back to familiar surroundings. Because I grew up here in Indiana.
Yeah, yeah.
So I know a lot of people. So
Right.
they said, go back to there. Well, I didn't. I went to Atlanta, Georgia with my brother, and I spent a year there, and the drinking got worse.
Okay.
And the anger, you just want to punch people.
And that's
I
where the
want
VA
you to zoom out
programs-
and show Henry is comforting Jonathan right now by licking his hand to let him know that it's okay.
Exam worked
The
out.
VA programs you got in, and people, you can do this on your own, or
I had to.
well, you have to.
Yeah.
Somebody has to do it for you. They magnify, they get better and better is what I mean. As you go through one program, usually the next program will teach you more.
Yeah.
Just like coping skills school. You know, the more you learn, the better you understand the class you took before.
Right.
And which is really hard for people that has mental disability to deal with.
Focusing is an issue. So focusing is an issue. Anxiety. So you may not get it the first time you go through, but then the next program you go into, they talk about it, and you're like, oh yeah. So then you try it away from them, and you're like, oh wow, okay, aha. This is an aha moment. And you're like, okay, so that really helps. So then you focus just on that, and you forget about the other things that they told you about for coping skills. The good thing about going through
Does work.
Yeah. The good thing about going through veteran programs is getting around other veterans. That's the stories and that's the connections
Right,
that
I
really
bet.
helped me get out.
I bet.
So I would go to this one and they'd say, hey, have you ever heard of Higher Ground? And I'm like, well, Higher Ground? It's a strategic advantage. You want to be at the high, take the high point.
Yeah.
Like,
Military.
No.
Yeah.
No, this is a program that gets veterans out, and it's a 7 to 10 day program where you go down and you're with about 30 veterans, just you guys on the river. So, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
So then now you met them. You know?
Not a survival skill, just
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't know that. I won't even quote what I believe is the current rate of veterans who literally decided to end it all to stop the pain each day.
It's about 22 a day.
Yeah, 22 a day is the figure that I have. And what I'm saying, folks out there, I want you to listen. John, Matt, my wife, there's things that happen to you, and I want you to know that there's hope. The reason we're talking about this, and the little flashes should be on the bottom of the screen there of different things. Don't give up. Never surrender. Okay? I think that's a rule in the military too, is it not?
No man left behind.
And you don't leave anybody behind. So what I'm asking you to do is don't. Okay? We're here for you. We want to hear from you.
And there's no
you can get a
time
hold of
limit.
us. Yeah, there's no time limit,
there's no time limit on how long you can take.
And-
They like to throw 2 years out there. That's the best he's ever going to be.
And man, I want to ask you something, okay? This is such an interesting show with Jonathan. If he would consent, he and Henry, to be a guest again, I think we need to do some more of this because we have barely touched the surface.
Oh, yeah.
And if you would consider that for us, I think it'd be pretty neat. Cool.
We can
All right.
decorate up in American flags for the show and all that and everything.
I'll tell you what, we can decorate ourselves any way we want, but we've got a phone number up here for you on the Brain Mechanics. If you want to give it a call, that would be great. We'll talk to you. I have the precious gift of insomnia, so if you and I think Matt might have that as well. I'm not sure about Jonathan,
It's
but
a little less
a
now.
little better. Well, that's because you got such a cute puppy.
They hit medications that actually start working. It's a practice. It's a practice.
Well, I'm not on any meds, but I still have that precious gift, and anything that goes bump in the night, I assume, is a problem.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and that's the other thing. Last show we had the guy with CBD, I
Yep.
believe it's called.
Yeah.
And there's good professional products coming out from that'll help a person sleep.
well, I've
It's
got to
not
make
medication.
a joke out of this. I mean, you got a marijuana derivative, you got beautiful dogs. Okay, I mean,
See, he
does it
ain't
get any better than that? And sleep at night? Come on now. Obviously, we're joking about something that's very serious, but what
So
I
he
want you to
carries
know
your
is
ID
that
on the side of
hey,
it.
you know
He
what?
does. If
There's hope. There's hope, right?
There is hope. Thanks for having me.
God bless you, sir.
Henry, turn around and show him your ID.
Henry, turn around. Come on. That's it. Good boy. That's our ID right there.
And that's all.
And if you do see a service dog out, someone with a puppy like this, please don't try and distract or just walk up and pet. It's
If
part
you-
of their life.
Yeah, if you want to pet a service dog, you have to ask the owner, and then there's a special command that they give it to, like make a friend, make a friend. So once
And
make a friend has happened, then you can pet.
And they may not be at that moment able to communicate with you easily either. So if you see an issue and they seem standoffish or whatever, just leave them alone, okay? You know, be cool. And this is why Henry lives for love and treats.
Treats. Salute. Salute. That's it. Good boy. That's a good boy.
All right, man. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, I want to let people know that at the Milton Christian Church in Milton, Indiana, which is where Matt and I go to church, we are starting a program called Reboot, which is for post-traumatic stress beginning in August and September of this year. Obviously for veterans. It is also counseled and run by veterans. So we will see if we can have a show coming up on that. And please check into the Milton Christian Church on Facebook. We'll have information up there where you can check it out and ways to get in contact with us. Don't be ashamed. Don't be too proud, man. It's okay. We're doing what we need to do, and we're going to help you any way we can. Thanks. Appreciate it.
The topics discussed and the information provided on this program is for general information. The hosts of this show are not medical professionals and are expressing their personal views and stories related to their individual lives. Their views are not intended to be used or taken as medical information. If you or a family member have suffered a traumatic brain injury, you should seek help from a practicing licensed physician. This episode of The Brain Mechanics has been made possible through the support of Medi-Center Pharmacy, Cambridge City's locally owned and operated pharmacy. Medi-Center Pharmacy provides prompt, friendly, professional service and a care for your overall health and well-being. Big enough to meet your needs, small enough to know your name. Medi-Center Pharmacy.